Texans today. I already made a video bright and early this morning. As soon as I pushed that out, the Texans decided to make a major splash, a sneaky move that really, maybe both teams benefit from this, but I think the Texans more than the Eagles because they get off a player, Kenyon Green, who has been awful for the Houston Texans. Maybe Jeff Stoutland, the best O-line coach in the NFL, can fix him in Philadelphia. But I think this signals two things for the Texans and the Eagles. The Texans, they get a safety in a market where guys are getting paid insane numbers. And they get a guy in CJ Gardner-Johnson who is one of the best safeties in the league at a very manageable contract. I think as I was looking at Spotrac, it was $3.7 million cap hit this year, $4.6 million cap hit in 2026, and they basically pick swap in 2026. The Eagles get Kenyon Green in a market where guards are getting paid out the wazoo. Will Fries this morning got over $17 million a year, and maybe they're getting ready to lose Mekhi Becton. I think this trade is going to be great for the Houston Texans because this secondary is about to be filled with some dogs. We'll break it down more in just a moment, but this is why you hit that sub button. We're bringing you Texans news time after time after time. When it happens, we break it down here on the channel 100% free. We're never going to be behind a paywall. This is why we are the #1 Texans channel on YouTube for good reason. When stuff happens, we break it down here at Texans Today. And speaking of breaking it down, CJ Gardner-Johnson, I'm about to break it down with some BTA with this Texans secondary. Kamari Lassiter, Kalen Bullock. You have now Jimmy Ward, Jalen Petrie, add in CJ Gardner-Johnson. Stingley, I wouldn't, he's our best corner, but I wouldn't say he's a dog. Those other guys, dogs. DeMeco Ryans has just a room of psychos in the secondary now that you add CJ Gardner-Johnson to this group. And when you look at his stats over the past 4 years, it's not just, he's out there headhunting. He's a guy with the big hits. He's also a guy who's going to be able to bring you, a lot of stuff in this. It's fine. We don't have to go to it. He's going to bring you a lot of stuff in the secondary. This past year, 6 interceptions, 12 pass breakups for CJ Gardner-Johnson. He was awesome for Philadelphia. Part of the reason why that secondary was so lethal for the Philadelphia Eagles, he was one of the guys who was one of the mainstays back there for Philadelphia. Now, they did really good in drafting a ton of guys. They got a lot of guys in the secondary, but, I think it's a win-win for both teams. The Eagles, they needed O-line help. The Texans, they were obviously looking for another safety to pair with Kalen Bullock because I've said it time and time again. Jimmy Ward and Jalen Petrie are slot nickel guys. They're not deep safeties. Now you have your 2 deep safeties. You have CJ Gardner-Johnson and you have Kalen Bullock back there on the back end. So both these guys, really good for the Houston Texans. I want to ask you right now, grade the trade for CJ Gardner-Johnson to the Texans. Let me know down in the comment section, A, B, C, D, or F. How would you grade the trade for the Texans? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break here, scroll on down and give me your answer. It was CJ Gardner-Johnson for Kenyon Green, and they swapped 2026 picks in the 6th and 5th rounds. Let me know A, B, C, D, or F, your grade. This one's an A++. This one's an A+++++ because you get off of Kenyon Green, somebody who you didn't want on this team regardless. He had no spot on this team in 2025. No way. Maybe as a backup option, but as a former first-round pick, is that really what you want to be, reduced down to as a backup option that the team really, really hopes they don't have to use? No. And then the Eagles get CJ Gardner-Johnson, filling in a gap that they need in the secondary. And like I said, that contract is so manageable. It is an absolute steal on all ends for the Houston Texans. And maybe I was too quick to judge Nick Caserio and this group yesterday with the Laremy Tunsil trade because maybe they know something that I don't with the Texans roster configuration with guys like Blake Fisher, like Titus Howard, with all these guys. I think the Texans made a really good move today with CJ Gardner-Johnson, trading Kenyon Green for him. And this is a move that's really setting up the Texans for the rest of their offseason. Now, are we good with the graphics for the rest of them or no? Okay. Well, I'll continue to break this down here in just a moment, but first, a word from our sponsor over at Fanatics. I mean, chatsports.com/H-Town. If you're looking for any H-Town gear, any secondary gear, go check them out today with our friends at Fanatics, chatsports.com/H-Town. If you want anything, if you need anything around the Houston Texans, this is the place to go. That link is going to be in the comment section and description of today's video. Go check them out today, chatsports.com/H-Town. Now, there are some obviously other moves the Texans have made this week. Obviously, right? If you've been under a rock, haven't seen it in my videos this week, Laremy Tunsil, our left tackle, was traded to the Washington Commanders for a haul, a third and a seventh in 2025, a second and a fourth in 2026. The Texans are also sending a fourth-round pick this year to the Commanders. Now, I put out a video this morning. If you didn't catch it, it's going to be in the comments and description of today's video as some replacements at left tackle for Laremy Tunsil, what all the options are. But this was maybe the biggest move the Texans have made up until they went ahead and traded away Kenyon Green. I think this is just signaling just a total shift along the offensive line. I think they said we need to rinse and repeat this O-line. We need a fresh start. We need a reboot, and that's exactly what they're doing, sending away two guys who were starting at the beginning of last year for this Texans offensive line, have now traded both those guys away in Laremy Tunsil and Kenyon Green. Some other moves that the Texans have made during free agency. It's not up here, but Hinish was re-signed. Ogunbowale was re-signed to a one-year deal. Obviously, the trade for Christian Kirk was huge the other day. They also, re-signed Sheldon Rankins. He spent a year in Cincinnati, now back with the Houston Texans on a one-year, $7 million deal. Braxton Berrios and Alex Earl are coming to Houston. Welcome to Houston, Braxton Berrios. They also made a move for re-signing Derek Barnett. Tremon Smith, 2 years, $7.5 million deal, up to $7.5 million deal for Tremon Smith, a special teamer, a lot of money for special teams. Darrell Taylor, another edge rusher, 1 year, $5.25 million deal. Justin Watson, the receiver from the Chiefs, they went ahead and signed him yesterday as well. And then some of the other moves that they have made as well. Late yesterday, they re-signed Jake Hansen, linebacker, to a one-year deal. And then early this morning, trading for CJ Gardner-Johnson for Kenyon Green. A fleece by Nick Caserio in this trade. I don't think he got enough for Laremy Tunsil yesterday still, but at the end of the day, I think this is a decent move for the Houston Texans in getting CJ Gardner-Johnson, another guy for your special team, or not for your special teams, for your secondary, and getting rid of Kenyon Green, who was done in Houston. He was never going to start again for the Houston Texans. Now, some other moves that have been made this morning. Will Fries, one of my top options at guard for the Houston Texans, signed with the Minnesota Vikings. Also, Daniel Jones signing with the Indianapolis Colts. We've got Dre Greenlaw yesterday signing with the Denver Broncos. He was to have rumored interest in the Houston Texans. Also, Solomon Thomas signed with the Dallas Cowboys, among some other moves that happened this morning. But we'll keep you updated with everything you need to know around the NFL, around your Houston Texans here at Texans Today. That's what we do. We bring you the breaking news. And today's breaking news, CJ Gardner-Johnson, you are a Houston Texan. If you ever want to come on the show, hey, my DMs are always open. Hit me up on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs. Welcome to Houston. This secondary is going to be scary hours for the Houston Texans. I'm so excited. Like I said, hit that sub button for the latest Texans news and rumors all year long, and for more going on around your Houston Texans during NFL free agency and going in to the 2025 NFL Draft.